Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be looking at Astroneer and doing a game review on that. I've been playing it for a little while and I thought I'd give my thoughts on how the game plays and what it's like to play. So Astroneer is an early access space exploration game featuring multiple planet exploration, dynamic weather and base building. It was put into early access on the 16th of December 2016 and at the time of this video is on patch 125. Due to this game being in pre-alpha, I will return to this game around its final release in order to get an idea of what the final product is like. So, from my time playing Astroneer, which at the time of making this video is around 4 or 5 hours, I found it quite enjoyable. It is a great game to pick up and play to relax while exploring caves and wandering the landscape. Speaking of the environment, the landscape is procedurally generated at the beginning of the game and is quite expansive. You can find many different types of planets, including snowy, plains, or jungle-like. The environment contains strange constructs and odd orb-like plants, which normally hide what is known as research, which I'll touch on in a later segment. At the current time, the environment is quite bland in terms of content, but I look forward to see more content in this area in the future. The dynamic weather system is a great addition to this game. While playing my game with the friend Revan, we found that quite frequently we would be doing some small tasks on the surface when we'd be met with a thundering noise of a sandstorm heading towards us. As we hid in a cave, suddenly rocks would fly towards the surface at high speed, threatening to kill us and knock our bodies into the depths below. Astroneer features some base building gameplay. The player can create a hub of sorts from the ship they arrive in, and expand out into various different tables, which can be used for things such as smelting, research, vehicle stations, and fuel refineries. The actual amount of content is fairly small, but the progression to unlock all of the features is well spaced out in my opinion. I found that the game was pretty reasonable in the amount of time it took to reach the next stage of the tech progression, and makes it fairly easy to reach a level where you feel like you have a base that's really shaping up to be a cool workstation. Understanding how to create new work tables can be a little confusing at first, but it is relatively easy to understand once you've done it a few times. One of the nicer features of the work tables is that power can be shared through the connections between them, so machines that are attached to one side of your base can be powered by a generator on the other side, providing they're all linked up. One of the main aspects of this game is also resource management, or more importantly resource collection. While out in the wild you can find many different types of resources, ranging from two major resources such as oxygen and power, to other more useful resources such as compound, resin, hydrazine and various types of ore within the world. Most of these resources can be found underground in cave systems, along with the research modules that I mentioned earlier. Many of the rarer materials can be found through this research, and it's pretty easy to find them, so don't be worried about a material being too hard to find. Actually storing resources, however, is a different story. For the most part, you'll be spending your time gathering tons of resources, but just dropping them on the ground, due to the storage modules only being able to be placed on a work area, and they don't really hold that much. At the current time, there's no penalty for leaving your resources on the ground or in a hole, but it can become quite cluttered at times, making it hard to keep track of a specific resource if it's buried away underneath many other common resources. The game features a diegetic UI, meaning the UI is built into the game for the most part as opposed to the UI being placed on top. While the game does feature an overlay for keys to press, the majority of the game displays important information within the game world, such as power and oxygen being displayed on your backpack, along with what resources you currently have. The game adds to this by making inventory management handled within the game world as well. Instead of adding a separate inventory screen, the game just pulls the backpack from the player into view, allowing you to move resources around and change the modules you have attached to your backpack, such as a solar panel or a battery for instance. I feel this helps to immerse the player into the game as they spend less time looking in a pause screen and more time looking around at the environment, even when doing something as simple as cleaning up their inventory. So for a final summary, here are the main pros and cons of the game so far. Again, the game is in pre-alpha, so expect some of these to change closer to the final release. So, for the pros, the dynamic weather system. I really feel the dynamic weather adds a great sense of atmosphere in an otherwise pretty empty planet. It makes you actually look around the environment and feels cool when a sandstorm pummels rocks towards the ground. The UI system. The UI is really well integrated into the world, and I find I spend a large amount of time taking in the environment as well as the general feel of the game just by not looking at a menu screen all the time. And finally, research. I love the idea that research is abundant in the world and allows the player to progress through the tech tree as fast or as slow as possible, with the player being able to gather extra resources they've already found before, or discover new resources or technology they can build. Cons. The lack of content. It feels a bit cheap saying it, seeing as it's in a pre-alpha, but at the moment there is a fair amount of emptiness you'll find in the game, with the majority of the gameplay coming from your own storytelling. Movement. The movement can be quite tricky to handle, especially if you're sliding down a slope. The player will just tend to keep going until they hit something and take damage. The character will also sometimes just get stuck while trying to walk up specific surfaces, which don't feel fluid or particularly well developed. And inventory management. At the current time, inventory management is mostly about pouring all your resources onto the floor or in a hole. While a storage module does exist, having to expand your work area just for the sake of a small amount of storage personally doesn't feel worth it. It'd be nice to see the ability to upgrade your current backpack size or a feature similar to this in the future. To conclude, I'd have to give this game a 7 out of 10, as for pre-alpha there is quite a large amount of content already available, and with the devs constantly interacting with the community, the game is shaping up to be a great final release. As I said before, this score is indicative of the current version, not the final release of the game. I plan to do another review in the future to compare what I found, and as always, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you everyone for watching, I hope you enjoyed. If you did like the video today, please do consider leaving a like or subscribing so you can catch all of my later content. I'd like to give a massive shout out to my Patreon supporters. You guys helped this become a reality, so thank you very much for that, and I'll see you guys in the next video.